Hi Ivan, how's it going?
I'm good, Michael. How's things today? 3 days to go.
Yeah, but I'm extremely relieved after one of my cats decided to disappear for a day and a half, but she came back. But there's been a few interesting things going on today, some more exaggerated than others. But I think one of the things we should get to is Miliband's stone. So, can you tell us what's the fundally-mundally important thing about this story, Ivan?
It's a fundally important thing. It's actually fairly ridiculous. It's like a huge big kind of Stonehenge thing that he's written some fairly incoherent and not very easy to measure drivel on. So it's nice things they would like to do, given half a chance, rather than hard and fast commits to anything sensible. But I think what it has done is it's kind of hold the news agenda for another day, which I think at this stage of the campaign that's what it's all about. Don't let the other guys on the news to set the agenda and just kind of try and count the clock down.
So is he essentially suggesting that a lot of money should be spent on an extremely expensive post-it note?
Pretty much like that's what it all comes down to, just to remind him when he gets up in the morning what he's there for, as if he needs reminding. So all a bit ridiculous and very strange, I would say.
Another thing in the news today from Labour was that they're considering a Lib Dem coalition, but what do you think's behind this?
Well, again, it's a kind of fairly bit of a tangential story, because at the end of the day, if the numbers are there for it, that's great for them. If the numbers aren't there for it, then it's a completely irrelevant sideline. I think, again, all they're trying to do is get something onto the news agenda that doesn't involve Labour and the SNP in the same sentence, because they clearly feel down south that's not doing them any favours. But as I say, it all comes down to whether the numbers stack up or not, and we won't really know that until Friday sometime.
So does this mean that it's going to be the Tories' day tomorrow? Because it seems like Labour have been creating, and I use those words advisedly, have been creating a number of media stories today.
Yeah, but I think if I was Labour, that's what they would probably try and carry on doing for the next 3 days, and try and say, lock the Tories out. All the Tories I want to bash on about is the economy and this whole Labour SNP thing. So as long as Labour can make up distracting, tangential stories and hog the headlines, then I think they'll be quite happy with that.
What do you think about Cameron saying he's the only option?
Well, he said an interesting thing about he needs to win 23 seats to get his overall majority, and he highlighted where those seats were and went and spoke in some of them. So I think they're trying to create an inevitability round about a Tory victory, but frankly, the way the numbers are all moving, it's very difficult to see Cameron getting into number 10, barring a very last minute change of heart from a lot of people in English marginal seats.
And as we're just doing a quick run through of the news today, I think the funniest thing today has to be UKIP launched its Scottish programme, but didn't have any manifestos to give out due to a bank holiday, and that they weren't actually printed yet.
Yeah, that sounds kind of typical. I mean, it's a bit embarrassing for them, because frankly they've got nothing to say in Scotland. Some of the stuff they've said about cutting Scottish funding, etc., really doesn't do them any favours. So I think they could be heading for some record number of lost deposits come Thursday in Scotland.
But moving on to some of the more serious ones, Leanne Wood of Plaid said that she would be prepared to vote against a Labour budget, and saying that support cannot be taken for granted. So people are getting in different things at the moment. People getting in last-minute points that they think could be vote winners. How well do you think Plaid can actually do in Wales?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they've probably got 3 seats that they should be okay to keep. There's a 4th one, I think, that they're trying to target. And if a very good day, they could get another 1 or 2 more. But I think that's about the extent of it. Now, I think if you think back 3 months or so, there was an idea that perhaps Plaid could follow the SNP in terms of making a significant breakthrough and start ramping up some serious popularity, but that doesn't seem to have transpired. They might have a good day, as I say, and get another couple of seats, but I think that'll be about the extent of their ambition at this stage. The other thing that's come out, of course, is I believe Mr Russell Brand has come off the fence and come out in support of a Labour vote. Certainly in the rest of the UK, excluding Brighton, seems to be what he's saying. Instead of you're in Scotland, you know what you're going to do anyway, and if you're in Brighton, vote Green. But apart from that, he seems to be endorsing Miliband, which is quite unexpected actually, but quite interesting as well.
Yeah, from his previous positions, I wouldn't have expected anything like that.
Aye, so Miliband's obviously managed to influence him in some way. which I say is quite unexpected and interesting. What difference it'll make, who knows? I mean, the folks that Russell Brand preaches to, he spent that long telling them not to vote, that I think a lot of them have that mindset anyway, so I don't know how much of a difference it'll actually make in real terms.
It's slightly interesting that the biggest election volte-face so far has been from Russell Brand and not anyone actually involved in the election.
Well, exactly. It just says a lot about it, doesn't it? Doesn't it really?
Thanks, Ivan. We'll do another wee rundown in the next couple of days.
Thanks, Michael. Talk to you tomorrow.
As that sage of Scottish politics, Jim Murphy, would say, it's fundamentally important that we take the opportunity to discuss full fiscal autonomy, that is, Scotland directly raising and spending its own tax revenues and paying an agreed sum to Westminster for warmongering activities and stocking embassies with Ferrero Rocher. It's provoked a lot of shouty-woutiness from the Confederation of Unionist Foghorns, despite not appearing in the SNP manifesto until nearly the end, in the section that should have been titled, "Ach, well, we can dream." Actually, it doesn't even appear under the name FFA. Perhaps that was too close to what Westminster will actually permit, which is FA. Instead, it's called Full Financial Responsibility, which is essentially the same thing with a few drapes and soft furnishings added. The name change has been serenaded with sarcastic yowling from the usual suspects, but it's just a minor tweak compared to regular establishment rebrandings. What about the Department of Work and Pensions, promoting the term flexible hours contracts as a touchy-feely replacement for 0 hours contracts? Not to mention universal credit becoming the euphemistic title for utter chaos presided over by a pathological liar. Of course, full financial responsibility has created its own cross-border terminological shimmy, where a deficit for the rest of the UK magically becomes a black hole for Scotland. The responsibility for this lies with the IFS, an independent body employed by the government to crush ordinary people's hopes and dreams like grapes. When it criticises other parties' plans, the IFS is a shower of ivory tower propeller heads who should get out more. But when it criticises the SNP, it's incredibly perceptive and far-sighted. So when it calculated that if Scotland were fiscally autonomous now, which it isn't, there'd be a £7.6 billion funding gap, this was immediately trumpeted by the gnaw-bag chorus as evidence that if we vote for the SNP, we'll soon be living in mud huts and foraging for scraps on rubbish tips. The truth is that 1. Autonomy ain't gonna happen in the foreseeable future, hell no, and 2. If it did, and we were still in deficit, we'd borrow to bridge the gap, just like the UK and, well, every other country on the freaking planet. Full fiscal autonomy isn't about numbers, it's about having the freedom to run our economy, including sorting out the deficit, in a way that suits us. And let's face it, the alternative is to leave things to the likes of George Nosferatu Osborne or Edward Scissorhands Balls. Would you buy a used treasury bill from either of those spivs? I rest my case.